A pleasant day to everyone, to our dedicated research professor, Ms. Glenda Magno, to our very hardworking research advisor, Mr. Rendell Bachar, to my responsible research groupmates, Ms. Julie Angel Serrano and Ms. Irene Grace Espino, and to our co-researchers. We are here to present our research study entitled Exploring the Self-Directed Learning Capacity and Science Teaching Self-Efficacy of Pre-Service Teachers in a State University in Central Luzon, Philippines. To start our presentation, Ms. Julie Angel Serrano will discuss the introduction, objectives, and the conceptual framework. Ms. Julie, take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Guanlao. The introduction of the study. Distance learning due to the pandemic gave birth to self-directed learning as one of its key features, giving students more control and responsibility towards their own learning. However, the emphasis on self-directed learning is still evident in the higher education sector, especially in terms of the teacher education program in order to enhance their own learning. With that, aside from their ability to direct their own learning, pre-service teachers, especially in the field of science, are also expected to have high levels of self-efficacy in terms of teaching scientific concepts. With science as one of the core subject areas for learning, it is essential to assess the scientific literacy among the students. With that, the Philippines had participated in various international assessment programs, such as the PISA, or the Program for International Student Assessment, and the TEAMS, or the Trends in International Mathematics and Science Study. However, the results of those both international student assessment programs revealed poor scientific literacy among these students, with the Philippines ranking second to the lowest among the 65 countries in PISA, and the Philippines ranking the lowest among the 58 countries in the TEAMS. In addition, the international student assessment and international benchmarks established by the teams revealed poor scientific literacy among the respondents, as the Philippines range in the low benchmark of the said international benchmark, exhibiting inadequate knowledge and understanding of the concepts related to science. These results revealed poor scientific literacy and poor scientific education system in the country, thus posing implications of the Sulong Educalidad program of the Department of Education in order to improve the professional skills of the teachers and other school leaders. Thus, these different studies prompted that both self-directed learning and the science teaching self-efficacy are indicators of positive learning and teaching strategies in the classroom. With that, this study concerns with the idea of determining how self-directed learning capacity interacts with the science teaching self-efficacy among the pre-service teachers, and then lack of studies concerning the relationship between the two and the specializations in terms of the teacher education program highlights the further need to conduct this study. Ultimately, it is hoped that this study could provide valuable insights as to the development of the self-directed learning capacity and science teaching self-efficacy among the pre-service teachers. Next slide. For the research questions of the study, this study is deemed to focus on determining how self-directed learning capacity affects the science teaching self-efficacy among the pre-service teachers in programs that are expected to teach science in the various levels of K-12 basic education curriculum, such as the preschool, elementary, and the secondary levels. With that, it specifically sought to answer the following questions. Like, 1, how may the profile of the respondents be described in terms of sex and program? 2, how may the self-directed learning capacity among pre-service teachers be described in terms of teaching learning transaction and learning characteristics? 3, how may the science teaching self-efficacy of the respondents be described in terms of knowledge efficacy and teaching efficacy? Next. 4, is there a significant difference as to the STSE of the respondents when grouped according to profile? 5, Is there a significant difference as to the SDLC of respondents when grouped according to profile? And lastly, 6, is there a significant relationship between SDLC and SDSE? Next. For the conceptual framework of the study, as you can see, the figure depicts the two main variables to be assessed among pre-service teachers in the study. The arrow connecting the self-directed learning capacity and the science teaching self-efficacy depicts the relationship between the variables. It is also interconnected with the sex and program, especially in terms of the BSED, BED, and BSED programs, in order to show the relationship of how self-directed learning capacity affects the science teaching self-efficacy among the programs mentioned earlier. And next, to further discuss about the methodology of the study, here is Ms. Irene Grace Espino.
For our research methodology, A, for research design, causal comparative and correlational methods under descriptive research was used in the study. The causal comparative method was used to determine if there is a significant difference in the variables of the study, while the correlational method was used to determine if there is a significant relationship between the variables used in the study. B, for the respondents of the study were randomly selected fourth-year pre-service teachers from 3 different programs, namely Bachelor of Secondary Education, major in Science, Bachelor in Elementary Education, and Bachelor in Early Childhood Education. A total of 100 respondents participated in the study, and this sample size was determined using Rausoff, an online sample size calculator, while cluster random sampling was used to make sure that the different programs are well represented. B, for instrument, we adopted 2 survey tools from published researches. First, the Personal Responsibility Orientation, Self-Directed Learning Scale by Stockdale and Brackett, year 2011. This survey assesses self-directed learning in 2 components, the teaching learning transaction and learner characteristics. Second, the self-efficacy teaching and knowledge instrument for science teachers, revised by Prusky and others, year 2013. This instrument is divided into 2 categories, the teaching efficacy and knowledge efficacy, with a total of 16 questions. For data collection, remote data gathering in the form of an electronic survey was performed for safety purposes during this time of pandemic, and the respondents were given enough time to complete the survey. E, for ethical consideration, we have included in our electronic survey form the terms and conditions from Data Privacy Act of 2012, which we ensured that we strictly followed to the rules of confidentiality and privacy. F, for statistical treatment of data, statistical package for social sciences were used in the treatment of the data, while in describing the profile of the respondents, frequency and percentage were used, and to describe the respondents' level of science teaching self-efficacy and self-directed learning, the mean and standard deviation were used. Lastly, in testing the hypothesis, the Mann-Whitney, Kruskal-Wallis, and Spearman-Roth test were used and interpreted at 0.05 level of significance. That's all for methodology. And to discuss the result and discussion and conclusion, we may now have Mr. Renzi Guanlao.
So, for our results and discussion, next. Table 1 presents the profile of the respondents in terms of sex and program. As you can see, majority of the respondents were female fourth-year students from BED. Next. Table 2 displayed the self-directed learning capacity of the respondents in terms of teaching learning transaction. A composite mean of 3.77 implies that the respondents are generally agree in terms of their learning teaching transaction components under self-directed learning capacity. Next. Table 3 shows the self-directed learning capacity of the respondents in terms of learning characteristics. A composite mean of 3.66 implies that the respondents are generally agree in terms of their learning characteristics under self-directed learning capacity. Next. Table 4 reveals that pre-service teachers generally have high self-directed learning based on their overall self-directed learning capacity. Next. Table 5 presents the science teaching self-efficacy of the respondents in terms of knowledge efficacy. A composite mean of 4.0 implies that the respondents are generally agree in terms of their knowledge efficacy under science teaching self-efficacy. Next. Display that the science teaching self-efficacy of the students respondents in terms of teaching efficacy. A composite mean of 3.23 implies that the respondents are generally uncertain in terms of their teaching efficacy under science teaching self-efficacy. Next. Table 7 shows that pre-service teachers are generally have high self-efficacy based on their overall science teaching self-efficacy. Next. Table 8 reveals that there is no significant difference on the level of the self-directed learning capacity of the respondents when grouped according to sex. Next. Table 9 presents that there is a significant difference on the level of self-directed learning capacity of the respondents when grouped according to program. BED have the highest level of self-directed learning next to BSED, and lastly, BSED science major. This is because BED are required to take courses which enhances their pedagogical content knowledge in different subjects. They're also exposed in independent and collaborative learning in designing lesson plans, instructional materials, and demo teaching. While BSED Science have high technical specialization courses across different fields of science, which heavily relies on the expertise of the professor, which contribute to their lower self-directed learning capacity. Next. Table 10 displays that there is no significant difference on the level of science teaching self-efficacy of the respondents when grouped according to sex. Next. Table 11 reveals that there is no significant difference on the level of science teaching self-efficacy of the respondents when grouped according to program. And lastly, Table 12 depicts that there is a positive significant relationship between the level of self-directed learning capacity and science teaching self-efficacy of the respondents. This reflects that both variables are directly proportional to each other. In simple terms, if self-directed learning capacity increases, the same goes with the science teaching self-efficacy and vice versa. Next. For our conclusion, number 1, majority of the respondents were female fourth-year students from Bachelor of Elementary Education or BEd program. Number 2, pre-service teachers generally have high self-directed learning based on their overall self-directed learning capacity. 3, pre-service teachers generally have high self-efficacy in teaching science based on their overall science teaching self-efficacy. Next. Number 4, there is no significant difference in the self-directed learning capacity of the respondents when grouped according to sex. However, when grouped based on program, the respondents significantly differ in their self-directed learning capacity. Number 5, there is no significant difference in the science teaching self-efficacy of the respondents when grouped according to on sex and program. 6, there is a significant relationship between the self-directed learning capacity and science teaching self-efficacy. For our recommendation, Ms. Irene Grace Espino will take over.
With that, we arrive at this following recommendations. 1. The Office of the Students Affairs, or OSAS, may strengthen the university's campaign to encourage the interest of young male students to enroll in various education programs in the campus. 2. It is recommended that the teaching strategies practiced by instructors involve teaching opportunities and activities that allow pre-service teachers to learn and explore lessons at their own pace. 3. The school leadership may consider providing seminars and workshops geared towards promoting science teaching self-efficacy among the pre-service teachers before they are fielded off campus. Number 4, the college may consider providing seminars and trainings to students on the importance of self-directed learning. Number 5, irrespective of sex and program, it is recommended that pre-service teachers be exposed to curriculum, strategies, and assessment towards enhancing their understanding of science concepts for the development of science teaching self-efficacy in the field. 6. The college may review and enhance the curriculum as needed to further impart self-directed learning as a means of improving the science teaching self-efficacy of pre-service teachers across the programs covered in this study. Lastly, number 7, future researchers may focus on the impact of self-directed learning capacity and science teaching efficacy to the success of pre-service teachers in experiential learning courses as measured using the appropriate rubrics. This ends the discussion of our research study. Thank you for listening and God bless us all.